Canada, famous for its delicious maple syrup and being home to many of the greatest hockey players ever, is the second largest country in the world. With around 2 million lakes, it holds over 50% of the planet's freshwater lakes. For thousands of years, this land was inhabited by resilient indigenous tribes who thrived despite the harsh, long winters, creating unique cultures along the way. The first no-native settlers in Canada and in the New World, as far as we know, were the Vikings. They established a settlement in Newfoundland around 1000 AD. It's a bit of a mystery how long they stayed there or if there were more settlements, but eventually it was either abandoned, raided, or the settlers got sick or blended into the local tribes. There are lots of theories about what happened. Fast forward nearly 500 years to 1497, when the Italian explorer Giovanni Caboto became the first European to explore North America's coast, claiming it for the English crown. Soon after, the Spanish and Portuguese jumped in, but they didn't really settle until decades later. They only set up a few seasonal fishing outposts until the French arrived. Jacques Cartier claimed the land for France in 1534, naming the Gulf and river after St. Lawrence's feast day. The French call the territory around the River Canada, which comes from a native word meaning settlement. After several attempts at permanent settlements failed due to starvation, disease, the cities of Quebec and Port Royal were finally established. By 1670, English colonies in the South were growing, leading to new settlements in Newfoundland and south of Hudson Bay. The fur trade, especially in beaver pelts, became super profitable, as it was the go-to material for hat makers and fancy winter clothing in Northern Europe. This really pushed both English and French fur trappers to settle further north, all eager to strike it rich. However, the French and English didn't get along so well. The French temporarily took over a lot of the land around Hudson Bay during a long stretch known as the Beaver Wars. It wasn't just the Europeans who got rich from the fur trade. The Iroquois Confederacy, made up of 6 powerful tribes armed with European firearms, initially teamed up with Dutch merchants and then the English who attacked the French and other tribes for more furs. Many tribes allied with the French to fight back against the Iroquois expansion. After 72 years of fighting and countless lives lost, a peace agreement was finally reached, but not much changed in terms of territory. New France consisted of several colonies, with Canada and Louisiana being the largest, alongside smaller ones like Placentia and Acadia. The British Empire gained these territories from the French in the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, a complicated deal related to the War of Spanish Succession. France also acknowledged the Hudson Bay Company's claim over Rupert's Land. Interestingly, the Hudson Bay Company is still around today, mainly as a retail chain with its name, despite having a larger territory. The French were outnumbered by the rapidly expanding British colonies by about 10 to 1 by the time the next major conflict arose. During the 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War, as it's often called in North America, French-speaking Acadians were forcibly removed from the Canadian border. Some of them became the foundation of the Cajun population in modern-day Louisiana and New Orleans. Both the English and French empires sent thousands of troops to North America during the war, backed by local militias and Indian tribes. The outnumbered French relied heavily on their Indian allies and managed to hold off the British for a while. However, the British eventually besieged Quebec and Montreal. Even though the French managed to defeat the British in one major battle, they couldn't reclaim their capital city. The war ended with the treaty where France ceded Canada to Britain and handed over Louisiana to Spain. Up to this point, much of North America's interior was still largely unpopulated, with many native tribes having been devastated by warfare and diseases for which they had no immunity. With about 3 million people, the American colonies successfully rebelled against the British Crown just over a decade later. They tried and failed to take Quebec, which remained loyal to Great Britain. After the war, many British loyalists moved north into Canada. In the War of 1812, both British and American forces attempted several invasions of each other's territories, resulting in a military stalemate that kept things as they were. The treaties that followed established a clearer border between the two nations. Although Canadians didn't want to join their American neighbors to the south, there was a growing movement for self-rule among the lower and middle classes. This led to the rebellions of 1837 and 1838, which were harshly dealt with, leading to the short-lived Republic of Canada, established by William Lloyd Mackenzie. Even though the Republic didn't last long and was quite small, it gained significant public support from both French and English-speaking Canadians and even from Americans. This prompted the British government to make major concessions, resulting in the Act of Union in 1840, which united Upper and Lower Canada into a new province. Soon after, responsible government was granted, allowing for much more self-rule by elected representatives. In 1846, the disputed Oregon Territory was peacefully divided between Great Britain and the United States, pretty much by drawing a straight line and giving Vancouver Island to Canada. Throughout the 19th century, a massive boom in the logging industry led to waves of immigration to Canada, gradually replacing the fur trade as the country's most profitable industry. In 1867, the British North America Act, now commonly known as the Constitution Act, established Canada as a self-governing democracy with Ottawa as its capital. To the west, the Hudson's Bay Company negotiated the sale of Rupert's Land to the newly formed Canadian government. The Métis people of mixed European, primarily French and Indian ancestry, were the largest population in the Winnipeg area of what is now Manitoba. Worried that their land would be taken by newcomers from the east, they rose in rebellion, creating a provisional government. After a tense standoff and an eventual occupation by federal troops, many of their demands were met, recognizing their rights. Louis Riel, the leader of the rebellion, would later lead another larger but less successful uprising 15 years later, which ended with his trial and execution. Riel became a controversial figure, either a martyr or a villain in the eyes of many Canadians. His death heightened tensions between Métis, English, and French groups in society. The significant role that the partially completed Transcontinental Railway played in suppressing the rebellion led to a surge in political support for its completion among English-speaking Canadians, and the railroad was finished just 4 years after it began. The 1890s saw the Klondike Gold Rush, where over 100,000 prospectors headed to the remote Yukon region hoping to strike it rich. Some did, but most didn't. After a few decades of stagnant population growth, mainly due to immigration to the U.S., Canada's population sharply increased thanks to a booming economy and high foreign immigration in the early 20th century. During World War I, Canada, still a dominion of the United Kingdom, sent 620,000 troops to fight in Europe. Sadly, 67,000 lost their lives, and another 173,000 were wounded. The staggering casualty rate shocked and saddened the nation. The war had a profound impact on Canadian nationalism and the desire for self-governance in international affairs, which they achieved when the British Parliament passed the Statute of Westminster in 1931, recognizing Canada's equal status with the United Kingdom. Between the World Wars, Canada faced significant challenges during the Great Depression of the early 1930s, with unemployment rates hitting 25% and many men living in relief camps. During World War II, over 1.1 million Canadians served in that brutal conflict, resulting in nearly 100,000 dead or wounded. In 1949, Newfoundland became the last province to join Canada, In 1965, Canada adopted its current flag, and a selection of other national flags was proposed. Let me know in the comments which one you think looks best. In 1982, the Canada Act was passed by the Parliament of the United Kingdom and ratified by the Queen, giving Canada the right to create its own constitution, which they did right away. While still recognizing the constitutional monarchy in a mostly ceremonial role, the new constitution removed the British Parliament's lingering influence over Canada. Canada is now a nation of over 36 million people, where over 20% speak French as a first language and has the 10th largest economy in the world. The province of Quebec has maintained a strong French influence over the centuries and has on 2 occasions voted in referendums to decide whether Quebec should proclaim national sovereignty and become an independent country. In 1995, it very nearly did not pass, with secession still being an issue till this day. This has been Epime. Let me know what you think down in the comments. What Canadian province is your favorite to visit or live in? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notifications every time I make a new video. And big thanks to my supporters over on Patreon. They help me keep making content like this. Thank you so much for watching till the end of the video.